Okay, one second. Okay, so there are a couple things that I'm inspired to talk about right now. Um, I'm reading in Conversations with God, and the first thing is I realize as I'm reading this that I'm a reader. I like to listen. I like to listen to audio also. I like guided meditations and things like that, and I like to listen to audiobooks, and I like to watch videos and listen to videos, but I am definitely a reader. Was not always so. Um, what I was impressed with as I was reading through this text was that I guess one of my jobs right now in the heavenly sense is to pass on the concepts and understandings of what I'm reading to those of you who maybe aren't inspired to read or don't enjoy reading or don't have the ability, because as I'm getting older, my eyesight is not as good as it once was, and I could see that there may come a day when I won't be able to do that. Okay, so and also that I may have offended some people that I am no longer in contact with because I have read excerpts of their books without asking permission first, and I have done that. And it was not out of ill intent, but out of an inspiration to do so, and not being able to perceive of any harm coming from that except to actually inspire others to purchase their books. So in my mind, it was free marketing, right? Whatever. I cannot control that, what other people do. So some things that I wanted to touch on here, and I love it when things that I have said in videos are then validated by texts that I read seemingly after the fact, and this one has done that. It was speaking about the crucifixion of Christ. And this text talks about what salvation is. It talks about there's no such thing as the devil. These are a series of events based on the choices that we've made, sometimes on a collective level and sometimes on an individual level, and that if each and every one of us made choices that aligned with love, and that's where we're going. Eventually, this will be a much more loving place in its entirety, because more and more and more of us are getting online with choosing love. And it says that we cannot choose the battle here. So for those of us that speak of battles between that we might have with the adversary, it is used, or the devil or Satan, or however you perceive that. Hell does not exist. You are saving yourself from the oblivion of non-realization, it says. So heaven, and I have talked about this in other videos, heaven is the state of being in which we know ourselves as what we truly are, which is Christ, which is love. We truly are an essence of God. And from that place, heaven is, no matter what is going on in the seemingly surrounding environment. Okay. And it says you cannot lose this battle. It is simply a process. It's not a battle at all. It's a process. And if you do not know this, you will see it as a constant struggle. I'm sorry, I have a glare on my reading screen here on my tablet because I'm in the sun. That happens, right? That might be better. Okay. So it says, you may even believe in this struggle long enough to create a whole religion around it. This religion will teach that struggle is the point of it all, and it's a false teaching. That was actually just communicated to me today, that by just being, by just being the Christ that I am, the light of God that I am, by just being, I am fulfilling my mission, which is to realize myself as what I am, that has never changed. Okay? And each and every one of us, that is true. That is our only goal. That is our only mission. So when Kryon says things like we are in lesson here, it's true from a certain perspective, because the constant, the things that come to us, the experiences that we participate in are continuous opportunities to realize ourselves as who and what we are. That is all. And sometimes, and I have spoken about this in other videos also, there are beings that will come into the world of form with a mission of producing such trauma and horrific acts as to jar the awakening of some. And I have beseeched them in earlier videos to please stop. Please stop playing the bad guy. Please stop being the bad actor in an attempt to awaken the rest of us. Because it the way I see it, it produces more trauma. It produces more negativity. It produces more stresses that then we must work through and overcome on a collective level. So I have asked that be stopped, because that's all I can do about that. And then to, continue to live as much in alignment with the Christ that I am as possible. Okay. And this says, it is in surrendering that the victory is won. So they're saying again what I just said, that each moment is, and these experiences can be, we can see them any way we choose. We can see them as opportunities. We can see them as interesting happenings. We can see them as, or we can see them as challenges, or we can see them as negative. Woe is me. Okay, this is happening to me. And these are our choices, and that is all it ever is a choice on how you're going to view the experiences that you encounter. And this says accidents happen because they do. Certain elements of the life process have come together in a particular way at a particular time with particular results. Results which you choose to call unfortunate. Okay, it's beautifully written, isn't it? For your own particular reasons. Yet they may not be unfortunate at all, given the agenda of your soul. And so, something like a flat tire. So I was on a date months ago. I was on a date with a man, and we were out, and he was driving, and he happened to drive over a curb because it was dark, and I'm sure he wasn't real familiar with the area because he was from a different town, and he drove over a large curb, and the result of that was a flat tire. So we were sitting in a Pizza Hut parking lot, and he had a flat tire because it had produced a hole, the pressure, and it was a literal blowout. So we were sitting in a Pizza Hut parking lot, and while we were there, I can only give you my observation of the situation. He was very upset. He was angry. He was frustrated. I probably embarrassed, because I would be too, on some level. In the past, before, I might have been very, very embarrassed. But because of where I am today, I sat with him as he was angry and upset and fuming, and I just kind of was like this, and and his response to me was he couldn't understand why I was feeling the way I was feeling. And I just kept saying to him, it is okay. And he said, well, we might be sitting here for hours because he tried to change the tire himself and was unable to get the tire off, and that was because of some type of corrosion that happens between metal and aluminum, whatever. But it was really, really stuck on. And so we had to call, thankfully I have AAA, so we called AAA, and a guy came to change the tire, and he had to use a special kind of tool to get this tire loose, because it was more than a human body, well, at least ours, and the gentleman I was with could budge. And he's a strong guy, Marine, ex-Marine, strong guy, but a special tool needed to be used to help break this thing free, so it wasn't anything he could have done. But anyway, we did sit there for some time, and the whole time we sat there was him being in this state of agitation or anger or resentment or whatever. And I understood it, and it was really okay. But I said to him, I said, yes, but yeah, this thing has happened, but we are together, and we're still able to spend time together, even though we're sitting in this parking lot with a flat tire. We have pizza. We aren't under fire. No one's trying to harm us. We're perfectly safe in this experience. And so I was not critical and judgmental of him, but he was being very critical and judgmental of himself. And then maybe a little bit toward me, because I was not in that same mental place. So that's an example of how you perceive your situation. In that space, you can perceive it like, oh my gosh, I got this flat tire, but look at this. I get to spend, look at this experience we get to have together. Isn't that amazing? We get to have this experience together, and if you want to, we can talk about how you're feeling in this moment, and why is it that I am just happy to be in this moment, even if it's, just, we didn't have anywhere we had to be. This time was dedicated to us spending time together, and we were still spending time together, even though it was in this scenario. And I've had issues like that my whole life, particularly with my male counterparts, where they would get really, really upset at a situation, and I would just kind of be like, when it's a rainy day outside, even though my grass needs mowed, if it's raining outside, I kind of go, oh, thank you, because I can't mow grass in the rain. So this tells me that I'm supposed to be doing something else, and I'm grateful for that. I don't go, oh crap, it's raining and I can't mow my grass. No, I'm like, yay, I can't mow the grass, and I can't feel bad about it, because it's just not possible for me to do that in the rain. And so I'm grateful for it, because it gives me the opportunity to do something different. Okay? Now, so again, we choose how we feel about any given situation. And these things only have the value that we give them. And that is out of A Course in Miracles. That is one of the teachings of A Course in Miracles. A Course in Miracles is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful text. If you can read into that, and I really need to get back to doing that more often. I get caught up in other texts, but I got to tell you, nothing speaks to me as much as those workbook lessons. The text itself is a little bit harder for me. I just get like, I don't know. It's just harder for me. My focus and my attention just isn't always strong enough to get into the text. But the workbook lessons are amazing. And of course, the accompaniment that was penned by Tina Spalding, where Jesus gives his commentary, is an amazing text. Any of the books that Tina Spalding has written, has penned, I recommend. Sorry, I haven't read one of her books, not any of her books, that I would not recommend. Because she has a great gift in that, being able to channel that message so divinely. It is wonderful. This text that I'm reading now, Conversations with God, already reading it, I would recommend it. I haven't read the whole thing yet, so I cannot say that I agree with all of it or not, but I recommend it anyway, because there is definitely a spirit of God within this information. I can discern that now. How clear is the channel all the time? That remains to be seen. But as of right now, there is definitely something of benefit in it. Okay, let me get back to this. I'm so sorry I digressed. So, I kind of do that a lot. Yes, I do. Okay, accidents happen because they do. And we know not what they're for. That is another teaching of A Course in Miracles. And that's something that I think I do when I get upset. I get the most upset when things don't go the way I want them to go, right? When I actually have a desired outcome. And sometimes I do, right? Sometimes I want things to go a certain way, or I have a friend that, when I was in the company of this friend, I felt incredible. And you could perceive that as healthy or unhealthy. I felt incredible. Like, my light was so bright. My energy was so lifted, just being in the presence of this person. And so I wanted more of that. I really did. I wanted more of that. I didn't label it anything, could it, or what it might have been. I just knew it felt really great, and I really would have liked to have more of those experiences. So when it became obvious to me that this person was really distancing themselves from me for whatever reason, I felt some kind of way about that. I did, because it was really enjoyable for me to share company. Now, but the other aspect of that is, we know not what they're for. So I had to look at that. Like, okay, I know how I feel about it. But then I look at it and I think, well, even though it felt great for me to be in the presence of this person, if it didn't feel great for that person, for my friend, I would not want to ask something of anyone that does not make them feel good. Like, if that person doesn't enjoy my company in the same way, I don't want them to be in my company then, because that just would not be a good thing for them, for me, for whatever. Because I know that, okay, let me speak to this. There was an episode of Coach that I watched. Again, another date I had, and we watched some episodes of Coach, some old episodes. And in this one episode, the character who played Christine was talking to Coach, Hayden Fox, and she was angry because she wanted to go to an art show and she wanted to do these things, and she was upset and frustrated that Coach didn't want to do these things with her, even though she would do things that he enjoyed. She hated the sporting events, but she would go to them because it was what he enjoyed. And she would do that to be able to experience and witness his enjoyment of that situation. And that's true. And I'm like that too. And maybe it's a woman thing. Okay. I am able to go along and do things to witness and partake in my partner's enjoyment of the thing to a point. Okay. Sometimes, not always. Sometimes I get to a point where I'm like, you know what? The negativity or the unpleasantness outweighs the pleasantness, and I'm just going to pass. Okay. But I could relate to that on some level. The thing I could not relate to was this. She wanted him to go with her to these things and really believed that if he would just accompany her, it would be an enjoyable situation. And I'm going to tell you that's not true. It doesn't happen. I have been in that situation. I have asked my romantic partner to participate in things with me. And when my romantic partner does not enjoy it, it really takes away from my enjoyment of it. It can ruin the experience for me. So I was watching that episode and I was really laughing because I was like, they want us to believe, whoever that is, this programming wants us to believe that if our partner will just do these things. And the truth of the matter is, if it is important to you to experience whatever that is with a partner, choose a partner that also enjoys that experience. So like for me, hiking, okay? I never knew I could enjoy hiking with someone. I never knew I could really enjoy hiking with someone until I did it with my friend Dee. And when Dee and I went hiking, and it was not really like an aggressive hike, but it was a little more than a nature walk because there were some inclines and stuff like that. So I'm just going to say hiking. But we had great conversation pertaining to things that we have in common during this experience. And we both were able to appreciate the forest in a way. And up until that point, I was like, oh my goodness, I had always done it alone, because anytime I tried to do it with a partner, it seemed like it took away from the experience rather than adding to it. And not even a romantic partner, but even just a friend. It took away from, it was a distraction to me, where when he and I went, it was really, really, it was better than had I done it myself. And that was the first time that I really experienced that. So what I would say is, we have to be careful how we, the lies that we tell ourselves. If only you'll do this, I will feel good. Find somebody that really, really loves that, and the two of you can enjoy the experience together. And it doesn't have to be a romantic partner. It can just be a friend, right? So, but I think that's great. But I think that we need to really look at how we're perceiving our situations. Okay, now we're going to move on to what time is it? Wait 1 second. I'm okay for a couple more minutes. Okay. There is no coincidence, and nothing happens by accident. Yeah. Okay, each event and adventure is called to yourself by yourself in order that you might create and experience who you really are. Okay. And it says all true masters know this. So it goes on to speak about Jesus and the crucifixion of Jesus. And this is where I got some validation from, because I had not read this text. I put out a video speaking about the crucifixion. I put out a few. And in that video, I said exactly what is cited in this text, that he allowed himself to be crucified. He could have stopped it at any point and chose not to, because it was more important to him to be the example of love in the world. And this text validates that. And that was a great blessing to me. And I just want to say thank you to my Heavenly Father for bringing this to me. And it cites some words of Jesus in this text that I would like to repeat. He said, look at what I can do. Look at what is true, and know that these things and more shall you also do. For have I not said, ye are gods? Yet you do not believe. If you cannot then believe in yourself, believe in me. Okay? And because I know the power of the man Jesus, who Christ was so active in. So there is the Christ itself, and there is the human personality, Jesus being the man and Christ being the Christ within him. And the connection that he had was so open that so much of his true Christ itself was able to come in, that he was capable of what we call miraculous things. But he has told us, and he told us, and even when it was cited in the Bible, he told us that greater things shall you do. And what I'm going to say to that, when I hear that greater things shall you do, there's a part of me that's like, this is talking about miracles that I would perceive of as miracles, but I'm not so sure that that is the case, but that is what comes to my ego mind, right? Greater things shall you do. This is talking to all of us. The shifts that we are making, the shifts that we continue to make on this planet to change how the old, I don't know that word, so I don't want to say it. Okay, I'm sorry. The whole, I want to say covenants, and the whole controls, but it wants me to say oligarchy. Okay. Spirit wants me to say oligarchy, and I'm sorry, I'm not sure that's correct, but that's what it wants me to say. So the way this whole, I'm going to have to look up that word oligarchy, wants to work, or has worked on this planet and manipulated everything. And we are coming away from that. We are shifting constantly and bringing more of this Christed light energy into each and every moment. And so that is the greater thing we are doing right now. The greater thing that we are doing now is that continuing the work of Christ. And that is what we're doing. Light workers, right? Whatever label you want to put on it. So those of us that are working for Christ, with Christ, are continuing this work. And once we reach a certain point of understanding, or enough of us in the Christed light, enough of us who are filtering that information, come together, I kid you not, we can move mountains, should it be necessary. But we also will be empathetic and compassionate enough to understand how that's going to affect the rest of our planet, because that is a consideration in the mind of, in the truth of Christ. How does what we do affect everything else? And that, and when you are in the Christed self, that is always there, first and foremost. How is what I do affecting everything else or everyone else? And is it going to benefit? Is it a benefit to the whole? And once you're in your Christed self, coming from that place, no decision that you make is done without that. It is an automatic. It does not require a mental process. It is automatic. To know that what I do affects everything else. What I say affects everything else. Doesn't mean that I'm always perfect at it, but it means that I know that everything I do has this cause and effect, right? Okay. So I just, and this, if you cannot believe in yourself, believe in me, because Christ is in us. If we believe strongly enough in the truth of Christ, the true message of Christ, if we hearken to that message of love strongly enough, the belief in our self is to know ourself as Christ. Once in that position, all things are possible. All things are always possible, and this will lead into that. Self-realization is another understanding of that which Christ talked of as heaven or the kingdom. It is realizing the self as the inhabitant of the kingdom, always. Okay, and that's Christ, your divine self. It says, the grandest teaching of Christ was not that you shall have everlasting life, but that you do. And he did say you shall have everlasting life, okay? You shall have whatever you request. And he did say those things because he understood that if you know yourself as Christ, if you know yourself as divine, these things, then you know, are available to you right now, always. Every potentiality, every possible outcome is available right now. It's like touching a screen and choosing an option. That is what we do. Every potentiality is available in this now moment. What will you do with it? And Christ knew that. And that's what he was saying. You know, if you seek first the kingdom, if you know yourself first, if you know yourself as Christ, if you know yourself as a divine aspect of God, all of these things are already given you. They are already here. They are already your inheritance. But first you must know yourself as that. And so he was giving us little steps to realizing who we are so that we could actualize the potentials and possibilities that have always been right there. Because without knowing ourselves, we can't see them. We are not even aware that they're an option. Okay? So, you think into being. We are divine aspects of God. We are the children of God. We are the birth offspring of God. He thought us into existence. And as the Creator creates, so do we. It begins with a thought. The more love, attention, the more divine focus you give a thought, whether it be positive or negative, the more you fuel the manifestation of that into reality in the now moment. Let us be mindful, heart mindful, because that is absolutely true. Shall we focus from the heart? Shall we dismiss that which does not serve us? If the thought comes in, dismiss. It is not serving me. If a thought comes in, now this does not mean that you don't act. If a thought comes in and you look at that thought and you go, I'm going to dismiss that right now, knowing that there's something in it for me. But in the asking, what is in it for me, I dismiss the negativity, the negative energy connected to it. What is in it for me? If I don't like something about this situation from that place of love, what do I want to do about it? What do I want to do about it? And how can I do it in a loving way that is beneficial to all? You see, this is where we're going. This is where we're going. Right now. 1,000 people just woke up right now. Every one of you who watches this will wake 1,000 more. How wonderful is that? Isn't that amazing? It is amazing. Just by focusing on the reality of what is true. One mind wakes 1,000 more minds just by giving it your attention. Because by giving it your attention, you are giving it the power of God. in the process of manifestation, whether it be good or not. In peace and love, may you be blessed.